Justice arrives when we least expect it, and sometimes it wears a baseball cap and carries a gentle smile. In an exclusive bakery nestled between towering office buildings in downtown Los Angeles, no one anticipated how a simple birthday cake would expose the ugly truth hiding behind polished glass displays and artisanal pastries. The morning sun cast long shadows through the bakery's pristine windows, illuminating the chaos inside. Holiday shoppers clutched designer bags while forming impatient lines, their whispered complaints creating a tense symphony with the clinking of china cups and the hiss of espresso machines. Every surface gleamed with perfection, from the crystal chandeliers to the marble countertops, where elaborately decorated cakes sat like crown jewels. The air carried the intoxicating scent of fresh bread and vanilla, but beneath this sweetness lurked something far more bitter. This was no ordinary morning at Sweet Elite Bakery, where appearance meant everything and some customers meant more than others. Among the well-dressed crowd, one woman stood out, not for her designer clothes or important title, but for the way she clutched a carefully counted envelope of cash close to her chest. Ayanna Miller had spent months saving for this moment, but she didn't know she was about to become the center of a story that would shake the foundations of one of LA's most prestigious bakeries. What began as a grandmother's simple wish to buy her grandson's birthday cake would transform into something far more powerful. A lesson about humanity that no one in the bakery would ever forget. Ayanna Miller stepped through the bakery's ornate glass doors, her weathered hands trembling slightly as she held the envelope containing 3 months of carefully saved dollar bills and quarters. At 78, she had watched this neighborhood transform from modest shopfronts into a parade of luxury boutiques. But Sweet Elite Bakery's reputation for creating the city's most magical birthday cakes made it worth every saved penny. This wasn't just about buying a cake. It was about giving her only grandson Caleb the 10th birthday celebration he deserved. The morning rush pulsed through the bakery like an anxious heartbeat. Suits and stilettos clicked across Italian marble floors, while baristas called out orders for $7 lattes. Behind gleaming display cases, pastry chefs in crisp white uniforms arranged rows of golden croissants and jewel-toned macarons with surgical precision. The scent of butter and sugar hung thick in the air, mingling with expensive perfume and freshly ground coffee. Ayanna adjusted her well-worn coat, trying to smooth the collar that had frayed at the edges. She had put on her best dress, the blue one she saved for church, but standing amid designer handbags and tailored blazers, she felt every thread of her second-hand clothes. Still, she lifted her chin and joined the line, pride carrying her forward even as whispers and sidelong glances followed in her wake. What Ayanna couldn't know was that this ordinary Thursday morning would become anything but ordinary. In the next hour, the pristine walls of Sweet Elite would witness a confrontation that would expose the bitter truth beneath its sugar-coated surface. And help would come from the most unexpected source. Someone who understood that true character isn't measured by the price of your clothes, but by how you treat those who can't buy your respect. Ayanna's sensible shoes squeaked against the polished floor as she approached the display case, each step measured and careful. Her trained eye, sharpened by decades of bargain hunting, couldn't help noticing the price tags that seemed to mock her savings. Even the simplest cakes bore 3-digit prices, and the special birthday displays might as well have been crown jewels behind museum glass. Around her, other customers moved with the casual confidence of those who never checked price tags. A woman in a cream-colored business suit barked orders into her phone while pointing at an elaborate tiered cake. 2 college students with expensive laptops lounged at a corner table, carelessly dropping crumbs from $20 pastries. Ayanna clutched her envelope tighter, feeling the worn edges of the carefully arranged bills inside. 3 months of setting aside part of her Social Security checks, skipping her weekly bingo night, and choosing store-brand groceries. Caleb's face floated in her mind, his gap-toothed smile when he talked about his upcoming birthday party. "Grandma, Sweet Elite makes the coolest superhero cakes," he had exclaimed, showing her pictures on his mother's phone. Ayanna's daughter had offered to help with the cost, but pride kept Ayanna's lips sealed. She had never needed help providing for her family, not since her Harold passed 12 years ago, and she wasn't about to start now. Behind the counter, staff members in pristine uniforms moved with rehearsed efficiency. Two young women, their matching name tags identifying them as Ashley and Madison, arranged pastries with practiced precision. Their perfectly manicured hands adjusted displays while they chatted about weekend plans at exclusive clubs. Ayanna noticed how their eyes skipped over her, fixing instead on the fashionable customers behind her. The envelope crinkled as Ayanna's fingers tightened around it. She had practiced her order at home, rehearsing the words until they felt natural. 1 quarter-sheet birthday cake, please. Chocolate with vanilla frosting, superhero decorations. Simple, direct, dignified. But as she stepped closer to the counter, the practiced words stuck in her throat. The morning sunlight streaming through the windows suddenly felt too bright, too exposing, highlighting every wrinkle in her dress, every scuff on her shoes. What Ayanna couldn't see was how this moment of hesitation would set in motion events that would transform not just her morning, but the lives of everyone in Sweet Elite Bakery. Sometimes dignity comes at a price higher than any cake, and justice wears unexpected faces. Madison, the taller of the two staff members, finally acknowledged Ayanna's presence with a glance that barely concealed her impatience. Her perfectly lined lips curved into what might have been a smile, but felt more like a grimace. The morning rush swirled around them, a symphony of clinking china and muffled conversations about stock portfolios and vacation homes. "Can I help you?" Madison's voice carried the practiced politeness of someone who'd rather be anywhere else. Her French manicured fingers drummed against the spotless glass counter, creating a rhythm that matched Ayanna's anxious heartbeat. Behind her, Ashley didn't bother hiding her eye roll as she continued arranging $1,000 wedding cake displays. Ayanna cleared her throat, smoothing her dress with one hand while keeping the envelope close with the other. "Yes, please. I'd like to order a birthday cake for my grandson. Quarter sheet, chocolate with vanilla frosting." The words came out steadier than she felt, years of teaching third graders lending strength to her voice. Madison's eyebrows arched as she gave Ayanna another once-over. "Our custom cakes start at $300. The superhero designs are additional." She emphasized each price point as if testing Ayanna's resolve. "Plus tax, of course. And we require a 50% deposit today." The envelope suddenly felt lighter in Ayanna's hands. She had saved $275, every penny counted and recounted at her kitchen table. The price was higher than the one she'd seen advertised in the window last month. Her cheeks warmed as she realized what this meant. "But your window display showed birthday cakes starting at $200, Ayanna said, her teacher's voice wavering slightly. "I've been watching the prices since September." Behind her, someone in line sighed loudly, the sound cutting through the bakery's artificial warmth like a knife. Madison exchanged a knowing look with Ashley, who had abandoned all pretense of work to watch the scene unfold. "Those were our holiday promotional prices. They ended last week." Her tone suggested Ayanna should have known better than to expect such deals. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the grocery store bakery? They have simpler options. The suggestion hung in the air like expired cream, souring the carefully maintained atmosphere of luxury and exclusivity. Several customers shifted uncomfortably, suddenly very interested in their phones or the artistic swirls of foam on their lattes. But no one spoke up. No one ever did. Ayanna forced herself to stand taller, channeling the quiet dignity she'd learned from her mother during harder times. "I understand prices change, but perhaps we could discuss options within my budget." Her fingers traced the edge of her envelope, each bill inside representing a small sacrifice, a missed movie with Caleb, generic coffee instead of her favorite brand. The bakery's manager, Richard Sterling, emerged from his office, drawn by the growing tension. His tailored suit and silver cufflinks reflected the bakery's upscale image, but his eyes held something colder than the marble countertops. He moved with the practiced authority of someone used to handling difficult situations. "Is there a problem here?" Richard's voice carried across the space, causing several customers to look up from their phones. Madison stepped back, relief washing over her face as she gestured toward Ayanna. "This customer is having trouble understanding our pricing structure," Madison explained, emphasizing customer as if the word itself was questionable. Richard's expression hardened as he took in Ayanna's appearance. The carefully mended seam on her coat sleeve, the scuffed purse, the envelope that clearly contained cash instead of the expected platinum credit card. "Ma'am," Richard began, his tone dripping with false patience, "Sweet Elite Bakery caters to a particular clientele. Our prices reflect the quality and exclusivity of our products." He gestured toward the door with a manicured hand. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable somewhere more suitable for your means." Ayanna felt her chest tighten, but years of stretching Social Security checks had taught her persistence. "I've saved specifically for this cake. It's for my grandson's 10th birthday. Surely we can—" Richard cut her off with a sharp wave. "Our prices are non-negotiable. We're not a charity, and frankly, you're disrupting our other customers." His voice rose slightly, ensuring nearby patrons could hear his dismissal. "I'll have to ask you to leave." The humiliation burned hotter than any oven in the bakery's pristine kitchen. Ayanna clutched her envelope closer, feeling the edges of her carefully counted bills dig into her palm. The morning sun that had seemed so promising now felt like a spotlight, illuminating every thread of her outdated dress. But what no one in Sweet Elite Bakery realized was that their perfectly curated morning was about to be interrupted by someone who understood the true cost of dignity, and it wasn't measured in dollars. Near the back of the bakery, a figure in a worn leather jacket and baseball cap sat quietly observing the scene unfold. Most customers were too absorbed in their phones or pastries to notice him, but he hadn't missed a single moment of Ayanna's humiliation. Keanu Reeves pulled his cap lower, watching as Richard Sterling continued his calculated dismissal of the elderly woman. The manager's voice grew louder, theatrical in its fake concern. "Security will escort you out if necessary. We can't have you bothering our paying customers." The threat hung in the air like spoiled cream, several patrons shifting uncomfortably in their seats but remaining silent. Ayanna's hands trembled as she tried to tuck the envelope back into her purse, her fingers fumbling with the clasp. A few bills slipped out, fluttering to the floor like fallen leaves. The sight of her bending slowly to retrieve them, her arthritis making each movement painful, was what finally brought Keanu to his feet. His chair scraped against the marble floor, the sound cutting through the artificial classical music piped through hidden speakers. As he approached the counter, his steps measured and purposeful, the morning light caught his face beneath the cap's brim. A ripple of recognition moved through the bakery, whispers and hastily raised phones capturing the moment a Hollywood star stepped into their carefully curated drama. Richard Sterling's face shifted from smug superiority to uncertainty as Keanu's presence registered. The manager's practiced smile faltered, his hand dropping from where it had been pointing toward the door. Madison and Ashley froze behind the counter, their earlier confidence evaporating like steam from the espresso machine. Keanu stopped beside Ayanna, who was still struggling to gather her fallen money. Without a word, he knelt down, helping her collect the worn bills. His gentle assistance spoke volumes in the suddenly silent bakery. Standing up, he handed the money back to Ayanna with a warm smile before turning to face Richard Sterling. "I believe the lady was trying to place an order," Keanu said, his voice carrying the quiet authority that had commanded movie screens for decades. His eyes, usually known for their gentle warmth, held a steely determination as they fixed on Richard Sterling's increasingly pale face. The manager attempted to maintain his professional facade, though his voice wavered slightly. "Mr. Reeves, what an unexpected honor. I was just explaining our establishment's policies to this person." The pause before person hung in the air like a confession. Keanu's response came measured but firm. "I've been sitting here for 20 minutes, watching how your establishment treats people. Tell me, do your policies include humiliating elderly customers who've saved for months to buy their grandchildren birthday cakes?" The bakery fell completely silent. Even the espresso machine seemed to hold its breath. Ayanna stood straighter, her envelope clutched close. As Keanu continued, I heard her mention the advertised price in your window, the one that mysteriously changed when she walked in. Want to explain that? Richard's collar suddenly seemed too tight as he tugged at it. There must be some misunderstanding. Our prices reflect our premium quality. Premium quality shouldn't come with premium discrimination, Keanu interrupted, his voice remaining calm, but carrying to every corner of the now silent bakery. I watched this woman being treated differently from the moment she walked in. Why is that? Because her coat isn't designer? Because she brought cash instead of a platinum card? Madison and Ashley had backed away from the counter, their earlier smugness replaced by obvious discomfort. Other customers began lowering their phones, shame creeping across their faces as they realized their own silent complicity in Ayanna's treatment. Keanu turned to Ayanna, his expression softening. Ma'am, may I see that envelope? Ayanna hesitated for a moment before handing it to him. He carefully counted the bills inside, then faced Richard again. $275. Saved up penny by penny for her grandson's birthday. Tell me, what makes her money less valuable than anyone else's? Richard Sterling's composure cracked further as Keanu reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. 2 days ago, I overheard your staff discussing how you handle certain types of customers. Care to explain your special pricing system? He tapped his phone screen, revealing a recording app. The manager's face drained of color. Behind him, Madison suddenly found the floor fascinating, while Ashley nervously adjusted her name tag. The morning sun streamed through the windows, highlighting the thin sheen of sweat, now visible on Richard's forehead. Mr. Reeves, surely we can discuss this privately, Richard attempted, his voice barely above a whisper. But Keanu wasn't finished. He turned to address the entire bakery, his voice carrying the same quiet intensity that had captivated movie audiences for years. Yesterday, I sat here for 3 hours. I watched 6 elderly customers get turned away with similar excuses. Different prices quoted than advertised. Mysterious policy changes. Special fees that didn't exist for other customers. He scrolled through his phone, displaying a carefully documented list of incidents. Ayanna gasped softly beside him, realization dawning that her humiliation wasn't an isolated incident. Other customers began murmuring, some pulling out their phones to check the bakery's online reviews. A young woman in business attire stood up from her table, stepping forward. I saw something similar last week, she admitted, her voice shaking slightly. An elderly man trying to buy his wife's anniversary cake. They quoted him almost double what I paid for the same design. Her words seemed to break a dam of silence, and suddenly other customers began sharing similar observations. Keanu gestured to his phone again. I have recordings of your staff discussing what they call price adjustment strategies for elderly customers. Systematic overcharging. Deliberate discrimination. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. The question is, how far up does this policy go? Richard Sterling sank into a nearby chair, his carefully maintained facade crumbling entirely. The morning sun cast long shadows across his face, highlighting every line of stress and guilt. It wasn't supposed to get this far, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Tell them the truth, Keanu urged, his voice firm but not unkind. These people deserve to know. Mrs. Miller deserves to know. Ayanna stood quietly beside Keanu, her envelope still in his protective grip, watching as the truth began to unravel. Richard looked up, his eyes darting between Keanu, Ayanna, and the crowd of customers who now stood witness. The corporate office, they wanted increased profits. They suggested we could optimize pricing for certain demographics. His voice cracked. Elderly customers often don't check prices online. They're less likely to complain or post negative reviews. The admission sent ripples of disgust through the bakery. A middle-aged man in a business suit slammed his coffee cup down. My mother comes here every Sunday after church. How much have you overcharged her? Keanu pulled up another document on his phone. According to your own records, which I've obtained, elderly customers were charged an average of 40% more than standard prices. Some paid nearly double. He turned to Diana. Mrs. Miller, your grandson's cake should have cost $180, not $300. Madison stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Mr. Sterling made us do it. He said we'd lose our jobs if we didn't follow the special pricing guidelines. Ashley nodded vigorously beside her, both young women seemingly eager to distance themselves from the scheme. Richard's head snapped up. That's not true. You both suggested ways to make it more effective. The holiday promotion bait and switch was your idea, Ashley. The accusations flew back and forth, each revelation more damning than the last. Keanu raised his hand, silencing the escalating accusations. His calm authority drew everyone's attention back to the heart of the matter. He turned to face an assistant manager who had been trying to blend into the background. Call your corporate office. Now, put them on speaker. The next few minutes unfolded like a scene from one of his movies, but this drama was painfully real. The corporate representative's voice crackled through the phone, confidence dissolving into panic as Keanu methodically presented his evidence. Recordings, price discrepancies, employee testimonials. 3 days of careful documentation laid bare a systemic scheme of elder discrimination. This ends today, Keanu stated, his voice carrying the weight of certainty. I want full refunds issued to every elderly customer from the past 6 months. A public apology, and a new pricing policy that's transparent and equal for everyone. He paused, letting his words sink in. Or I can take this evidence to the media. I'm sure they'd be interested in how one of LA's most prestigious bakeries preys on grandparents trying to buy birthday cakes for their grandchildren. The corporate representative's response was immediate. Of course, Mr. Reeves. We'll begin the refund process immediately. Richard Sterling is terminated, effective immediately. We'll implement new pricing policies across all our locations. Diana watched in amazement as justice unfolded before her eyes. Keanu turned to her, holding out her envelope. Mrs. Miller, I believe you came here to order a cake for Caleb's birthday. Let's make sure it's perfect at the correct price. His smile carried warmth that had nothing to do with his celebrity status. The bakery transformed over the next hour. Corporate representatives arrived, their faces grim as they reviewed the evidence. Customers who had witnessed the morning's events shared their contact information, eager to help identify other victims of the discriminatory pricing scheme. Diana's cake order became a symbol of change. Keanu stayed beside her as she described Caleb's superhero dreams, making sure every detail was perfect. The new staff, called in to replace those involved in the scheme, treated her with the dignity she deserved. The price? Exactly as advertised, $180. We're also covering the cost of Caleb's cake, announced the corporate representative. It's the least we can do. But Keanu interjected gently, understanding something deeper about human dignity. Let Mrs. Miller pay the fair price. She saved for this moment. Her money has the same value as anyone else's. Diana straightened her shoulders, pride returning as she counted out the correct amount. The remaining $95 would go toward a special present for Caleb, something she hadn't dared hope for when she walked in that morning. News spread quickly through social media. Videos of Keanu's intervention went viral, sparking a nationwide conversation about elder discrimination in retail. Sweet Elite Bakery's corporate office announced sweeping changes across all locations, transparent pricing policies, anti-discrimination training, and a special program ensuring elderly customers receive respectful service. A week later, when Diana returned to pick up Caleb's cake, the bakery had transformed. New signs clearly displayed prices. The staff greeted every customer with genuine warmth. And there, framed on the wall, was a new mission statement. Dignity has no price tag. The impact of that morning rippled far beyond Sweet Elite Bakery's walls. Caleb's 10th birthday party became something more than just a celebration. It became a testament to his grandmother's dignity and the power of standing up for what's right. When Caleb saw his cake, his eyes lit up at the perfectly crafted superhero design. But it was Ayanna's quiet pride that truly illuminated the room. She shared the story with him, not of humiliation, but of courage and justice. Caleb hugged his grandmother tighter that day, understanding that real heroes sometimes wore baseball caps and helped grandmothers buy birthday cakes. Keanu's intervention sparked a movement. Other businesses began examining their treatment of elderly customers. Senior advocacy groups reported a surge in people coming forward with similar experiences. The viral video of that morning became required viewing in customer service training programs across the country. Ayanna received letters from other elderly customers sharing their stories. She started a support group at her local community center, helping others find their voice. The envelope she had clutched so nervously that morning became a symbol of resilience, displayed in Sweet Elite's newly renovated store alongside the story of change it inspired. 3 months later, Keanu returned to the bakery unannounced. He found Ayanna there, helping another elderly customer navigate the clearly displayed price list. They shared a quiet smile, acknowledging that sometimes the sweetest victories come from standing up for simple dignity. The lesson echoed beyond that morning. Respect isn't a luxury item with a premium price tag. It's a basic ingredient in human dignity, as essential as flour in a birthday cake. And sometimes, it takes just one person to stand up and remind the world that everyone deserves a taste of kindness, served fresh daily at the same fair price for all.